For tens of thousands of years, humans looked up at the stars with wonder. They told stories about them. They tracked seasons through them. We used them to survive. But there was still a problem. Wonder could explain the sky. It couldn't predict it. Imagine knowing winter is coming but not exactly when. Imagine knowing the moon changes shape but not understanding the cycle. Imagine seeing the planets move across the heavens without knowing where they would appear next. Humanity could observe the sky, but it could not calculate it. Then, in the fertile lands between Tigris and Euphrates rivers, something extraordinary happened. For the first time in history, people began treating the sky not as a mystery, but as data. This is the story of Mesopotamia, the civilization that transformed stargazing into the earliest form of astronomy and laid foundations that still influence how we measure time today. What was missing before? In the previous episode, we explored how early humans discovered that the heavens followed a pattern. They built stone alignments, tracked seasonal changes, connected celestial events to life on Earth. But there was still a major limitation. The knowledge remained local, informal, and largely dependent on memory. Nobody was keeping detailed records spanning generations. Nobody was creating long-term datasets. Nobody was systematically tracking celestial movements year after year. If a village elder died, much of that knowledge disappeared with them. Humanity had discovered patterns, but it had not yet discovered precision. That would change in Mesopotamia. Around 5,000 years ago, cities began rising across Mesopotamia. Places like Uruk, and Babylon. Agricultures flourished, trades expanded, writing emerged. And with the writing came something revolutionary, the ability to preserve observations across generations. For the first time, sky watchers could record what they saw: a lunar eclipse, planetary movement, the appearance of a particular star, the position of Venus. These observations were inscribed onto clay tablets. One observation became hundreds, hundreds became thousands. Something extraordinary was happening. Humanity was creating its first astronomical database. Without realizing it, Mesopotamians were inventing one of the most important tools in science: long-term observation. The sky can be measured. This was the great Mesopotamian breakthrough. Previous cultures observed the heavens. Mesopotamians measured them, night after night, year after year, generations after generation. They carefully tracked the phases of the moon, the movement of planets, the timing of eclipses, the appearance of constellations, and eventually they noticed something remarkable. Many celestial events repeated with the surprising regularity. The heavens weren't just orderly, they were predictable. For the first time, humans began realizing they could forecast future celestial events. Imagine how astonishing that must have been, the ability to predict something before it happened. This wasn't just an observation anymore. This was the beginning of science. One of the greatest achievements of Mesopotamian astronomy was identifying cycles. They discovered that lunar eclipses followed repeating patterns. Certain planetary movements repeated. The moon followed the reliable phases over the time. They became so skilled at recognizing these cycles that they could predict eclipses years in advance. Think about how revolutionary this was. To ancient people, eclipses were terrifying. The sun darkened. The moon disappeared. The sky behaved unexpectedly. Most civilizations viewed these events as supernatural warnings. Mesopotamians took a different approach. They began searching patterns, and patterns gave them predictive power. For perhaps the first time in history, humans were learning how to anticipate cosmic events rather than merely reacting to them. The birth of Zodiac. Now we arrive at one of the Mesopotamia's most influential contributions, the Zodiac. Today, most people associate Zodiac with horoscopes, but its origins were far more practical. The Mesopotamians divided the sky into recognizable regions. These celestial markers helped them track planetary movements and seasonal changes. Instead of saying a planet appeared somewhere in the sky, they could describe its position relative to a specific constellation. This made celestial observation far more precise. In many ways, Zodiac became humanity's first celestial coordinate system, a map of the heavens. And maps change everything. Once you can map something, you can measure it. Once you can measure it, you can predict it. Why this was ahead of its time. Today, we take data collection for granted. Every smartphone collects data. Every satellite collects data. Every observatory collects data. But the idea itself had to begin somewhere. Mesopotamians pioneered the practice of systematic observation. Instead of relying solely on stories, they relied increasingly on records. Instead of asking only what celestial events meant, they began asking when they would happen. This shift may seem small, but it transformed humanity's relationship with the cosmos. The heavens became something that could be studied objectively, not just interpreted, measured, recorded, analyzed, and eventually predicted. How it shaped the future. The impact of Mesopotamian astronomy spread far beyond Mesopotamia itself. Their observations influenced later Babylonian astronomers. The Babylonians refined planetary calculation. The Greeks inherited many of these astronomical records. Greek thinkers transformed observations into mathematical models. Persian scholars preserved and expanded this knowledge. Islamic astronomers further improved celestial calculations. European scientists later built upon these foundations during the scientific revolution. The chain stretches across thousands of years, and its beginnings stand Mesopotamian sky watchers recording observations onto clay tablets. What are we using today because of this? You encounter Mesopotamian influence more than you realize. We measure time. Consider the way we measure time. The 60-minute hour, the 60-second minute, the division of circles into 360 degrees. These concepts trace their origins to Mesopotamian mathematics and astronomy. Every time you check the time, you are using a system shaped thousands of years ago. Consider modern astronomy. Astronomers still track celestial objects using coordinates and repeated observations. The process has become much more advanced, but the principle remains the same. Observe, record, compare, predict. Even weather forecasting follows this approach. Data collected over time reveals patterns. Patterns allow prediction. The same logic that guided Mesopotamian sky watchers continues to guide modern science, and every space mission launched today depends on the precise calculation of celestial motion. A tradition that began when ancient observers first started measuring heavens. So what changed in Mesopotamia? Before Mesopotamia, humanity looked at the sky and saw patterns. After humanity began recording those patterns, before, celestial knowledge was passed through stories, but after it was preserved through data. Before, people observed the heavens. Later on, they began measuring them. The greatest contribution of Mesopotamian astronomy was not a telescope, not an observatory, not a scientific law. It was something equally important. The realization that understanding the universe requires records, data, observation across time. Because once humanity started writing down what it saw in the sky, a new possibility emerged. The future could be predicted, and prediction would become one of the most powerful tools ever developed. In the next chapter, we'll travel to ancient Egypt where humanity began connecting the heavens not only to the time, but to eternity itself. Till next time.